Hi everyone, my name is Frank Beltran, and today I'm gonna be doing my movie presentation on Citizen 4. So Citizen 4 is a documentary by Laura Partridge in which won an Academy Award in 2014 and is available to watch on Amazon or Amazon Prime. If you have Amazon Prime, it's free. If it's on that, if you don't have it, it's only like $3 or $4 to rent on Amazon. The main themes of the documentary revolves around our privacy, the morality of the greater good, whistleblowers. Does privacy really exist anymore? The documentary is about Edward Snowden leaking classified information on the U.S. government surveillance program, which is the largest leak of classified information ever in U.S. history. So the documentary is centered around Edward Snowden in Hong Kong, where at this point Snowden has already stolen documents from the NSA and has made his way to Hong Kong, in which oh well, when he's in Hong Kong, once he's done that, he's meeting up with Glenn Greenwald, William Benny, and Laura. He met the two journalists are Glenn Greenwald and William Benny, who break the story. Uh, Glenn doing it for the U.S. side, and then William doing it for the U.K. side. I'll explain right now in a bit why. Um, William's doing it for the UK side, and then Laura's there just to film it. I think Glenn had brought her along, and I think Glenn had brought her along, and then Snowden had also reached out to her. So in the documents, it's been revealed that the United States government is legally spying on every American in the country, and also how the U.S. has built systems for our allies to use against their citizens. So that's why William Benny's there, because Edward Snowden has proof that we had created a system for the UK government to use against their citizens. And all this illegal spying has been done in the name of national security and the fight against terrorism. So put it in context, 2013, we're still in the height of the war on terror. We have killed Osama bin Laden at this point, so we got our justice for 9/11, if you so want to call it. But the war against terror is still going on, and we're still using these systems to prevent any future attacks such. And a lot of these illegal spying in the name of national security has came from laws that were brought up after 9/11, which I'll talk about in a bit. But let's keep going. So what's the issue? The issue in the documentary is the right to privacy, and also should the government suspend those rights in the name of national security? So the big thing is privacy and the government spying on you. So in the first 10 minutes, brings up a court case from 2006 called Hampton versus AT&T, in which customers from AT&T learned that their um, information was being given to the NSA by AT&T. They learned that through a whistleblower, conveniently enough, from AT&T called Mike Clean, I think, Klein, something like that. In which the document presents like a snippet of the court case of which they're talking, and a lawyer from the NSA comes up to the court and says something very interesting since I am a criminal justice major, learning kind of how the law works and how the court system works. It's very interesting what this lawyer argument is. He says that the court has no authority over what's going on at the NSA and cannot make a ruling against them because it is part of the executive branch. Now, people don't know how the U.S. government is structured. I would assume most of us do at this point. You have your judiciary, you have your executive, you have your legislative. Judiciary is the courts, and the top of that is the Supreme Courts. Legislative is Congress, which writes and helps pass laws, and then you have your executive, which is the White House and the president. Within the executive, it has all these executive agencies because that's where you have your cabinet. So you have like your Secretary of State, which is State Department. You have your Secretary of Defense, which is like Pentagon and all the military part of it. Secretary of Housing. You have your Secretary of Health, and all these directors basically of these big huge agencies. So what he was saying is that the NSA is under the executive branch and it's an executive agency. Therefore, the courts don't have any authority to tell the NSA what they're doing or not doing, even if they're breaking the Fourth Amendment, a law in which it states that should not be no unwarranted search or seizure by the government on a U.S. citizen. You must have a warrant given by a court in order to search someone's premises and then seize anything. What they're saying is that, well, we're an executive agency, therefore the executive branch has the authority to tell us what to do. you guys don't, which was kind of crazy to me because basically saying like we can violate the Fourth Amendment, something that you guys have a very big authority over giving out warrants, but we can violate it because the person that has the authority to punish us is the executive, not the judiciary branch. So and so they tell us that, and then in the documentary, Overstone details how the U.S. got to this point of the government basically just violating your privacy at which way. And jumping off point was 9/11, which is the greatest tragedy in U.S. history, in which three planes, actually four planes, two hit the World Trade Center, one hits the Pentagon, and one crashed in a Pennsylvania field, in which almost 3,000 people died. And at that point, we came out of that day more scared, a more hostile nation, in which we passed laws that was a visceral reaction to what had been. It wasn't a calculated, it was a emotional response. As much as people like to think, probably calculate, it was not. Dick Cheney and Bush expanded the executive authority and Congress to it. Congress was there, right there, helping them expand the executive authorities and give the United States government the power to fight against terrorism. So this would never happen again. Two laws in particular that changed and expanded the power of the U.S. executive branch, which is the AMUF, which is the authorized use of military force, which is basically the president taking away the declaration of war clause from Congress, and the president basically has unlimited authority when it comes to war now because of that, if you read it. And the Patriot Act, which is the whole basis for the U.S. surveillance program and the legal authority for them to do it. We have other stuff too. You know, you have your enemy combatant, but really those are the two things that changed U.S. policy forever. So why is privacy important? Why is the issue that this document brings up is privacy? Well, the issue of privacy is important because it's a pillar of democracy, just as freedom of speech, press, religion, protest, expression, to assemble, all these things are what make a democracy function. Because democracy is all about checks. It's, the whole point of democracy is the antithesis of a monarchy, whereas one person has all the power and does what he wants with it, and he makes all decisions, or she. Well, in democracy is the power is spread out and each of them have a check on one another. Therefore, one can get more powerful than the other. And in that time, I think privacy is one of those pillars that keep up democracy. So let's use a hypothetical, for example. Let's say you're critical of the government for a policy that's been implemented, explain why privacy is important. What's stopping the government from saying, hey, stop, because we know this, this, and this. Stop saying what you're saying, being critical. Let's say, nowadays social media, if you get a big platform on social media, if you say something that resonates with people. Let's say the government's like, hey, stop. We'll say this, this, and this. We'll put this out about you. We'll conveniently get it to the Washington News or to the news sources and stuff. Now, if that possibility even exists, you have this thing they call a spiral of silence, in which somebody's afraid to say an opinion because they're afraid of the reaction around them. So therefore, they keep their opinion quiet. Therefore, people aren't actually being silenced physically, but they are themselves are silencing themselves because of a reaction that could come back onto them that they don't want. So without privacy, without the comfort of knowing that I can say something, I can be okay. There's things that I can do and stuff that I can be okay, whether it's in my room or my phone or whatever, I can be okay. And also, privacy is important because the government has no reason to be collecting information on a citizen who has not committed crime. So why the government should be collecting any information on me if I have never committed a crime? Therefore, I have a right to privacy in whatever I'm doing, whether it's playing my games, texting, calling, FaceTiming, whatever. I have a right to privacy to that. And the Fourth Amendment gives us that protection. There should not be unwarranted search or seizure unless there's a warrant, and there's certain criteria that people need to meet for a warrant. But what this documentary highlights is a suspension of the Fourth Amendment by the federal government in the name of national security. The suspension of privacy because of national security, which is very scary to me. This documentary highlights one of the greatest civil rights violations ever, I think, in this new age of information, where your data is the most valuable resource on the planet. Mark, other companies and stuff use this data to market things to you. Like, there's always a joke. Oh yeah, I say I want some Nike shoes, and all of a sudden a Nike ad pops up on my Instagram feed. That's the same technology that the government uses, but the government has more reach and more power and more resources, and is a lot more scarier than a Nike company or a marketing company. Where where your most private moments on your phone, computer, laptop, gaming console, or anything that's connected to the internet is being stored on a computer server somewhere and can be searched and collected. That's the whole point of why Edward Snowden created a search query, according to him, created a search query to where it can search everything and anything that the US government has and help collect stuff. And then all of a sudden you say, I'm searching for Frank Beltran and some keywords, and then all of a sudden it's like, okay, well, is there anything related to this person about these things? And it just pulls. You know, in my opinion, overall on the movie, I think the movie does an exceptional job in creating this thrilling atmosphere, just like as a movie overall. Like, it has the same tension you experience in a James Bond movie or any spy movie, but the catch is this is real life. This is a government agent stealing classified documents that reveals his own government spying on everyone in the country, regardless whether you have committed a crime or not. I think this movie really is something that people need to watch and get to understand. This, like, as much as all the social issues that are happening now, this right here is the big brother watching over you. This is where if the government is able to control information, they're able to take all the information and use it, good or bad, it can really dispel and get rid of movements. A Black Lives Say Black Lives Matter movement. All of a sudden, the government's like, well, they're being a little bit too much. They seem like a government uprising. Okay, well, what information do we have on the leaders? Oh, we have this. Okay, let's come on. And all of a sudden, those leaders are silenced. Whether it's on left or right, corporate, whatever. The government now has this information on you and can try to use it to silence you. Therefore, you don't want to say nothing because the government knows everything about you, and you get slowly towards this like dystopian society. What this movie does well is summed up in one of my favorite tweets by Edward Snowden. He says, "If you ever wonder where we're at on the dystopian scales, consider this: it's normal to believe that government is spying on you, and crazy to believe that they're not." And I think that's the takeaway I get after watching this documentary. That it's normal now to believe that the government is spying. Like, that's a normal thing. People make the jokes like, "Oh, my FBI agent's watching me," but like in some cases, there's a truth to that. Like, somebody is watching you. Someone can go into open up your computer, open up your camera, look at you. That's why everybody has a little thing over their laptop, over the camera, a sticky note or something, because they know someone can do it, that it's possible. We are now living in an age where we're now used to like, oh, well, I don't really have privacy, so I got to do all these extra steps to have privacy. So I think everybody should watch this documentary called Citizen 4. It's on Amazon or Amazon Prime. However, if you have Amazon Prime, it's free. If you don't have it, it's to rent. It's like $4. Thank you very much, and peace.